So in the last video, we were introduced to Xcode. We had a look at what the interface looked like, and we ran our very basic app in the iPhone simulator. So now we're going to look at this main storyboard. This is known as the interface builder, and it's a really useful part of Xcode, particularly for getting started with apps, because you don't need any coding experience at all to start making apps that look a certain way. So let's get rid of the left pane for the moment, because we just need the main blocks and the right hand pane. So here is my screen, essentially. Could be an iPad screen, could be an iPhone screen. It's any kind of screen. And this is known as a view controller, which essentially is just a screen of your app. So your app might contain various different screens, let's say your inbox and your particular email content would be an example of two different view controllers. But we don't need to worry too much about that at the moment. Essentially, this box just represents the screen of your app. So let's say we want to add a little bit of text to that screen. It's actually extremely easy to do. We search in the libraries pane for label, and then we can just grab that and drag it in. So all I've done, I've just clicked on it and dragged it in. So now I've got a label on my app. So if I now rerun the app, which I can do just by clicking the play button there, again, it will take a little while, but now I'll have an extremely simple app that will just say label. But that's how easy it is to add things to the interface of an iOS app using Xcode. There we go, there's my simulator. That'll pop up in a moment, there we go, there's my label. So we'll look at labels in more detail in a couple of moments, but I just want to share something with you that I mentioned in the last video. If we click the Smart Editor or the Assistant Editor, that will allow us to see two windows at once. Now this is a Swift file with a bit of code in that we're not worried about yet. We're going to look at code in a couple of videos' time. What I want to do is click Automatic and then Preview, Main Storyboard Preview. And then we'll get rid of the right hand pane because we don't need that for the moment. And then I'm just scrolling around here and pinching to zoom so that I can see everything nice and easily. And I'm going to just scroll that out the way as much as I can. There we go. So here's my view controller, which contains the screen for the app, which just has the label in it. And then here is my preview of what the app actually looks like on the screen. And the nice thing about this is you can actually rotate it here in the app. I'll just pull that down a little bit so you can see. You can see there's a little rotate arrow there. If you click that, then that rotates it so you can see straight away whether your interface looks good on a vertical screen as well as on a horizontal screen. Awesome. Okay. So when you're building interfaces, having these two screens up at the same time is the only way to do it, really. It's a great new feature of Xcode 6, and I would definitely recommend using it as much as you can. So how can we actually edit this label a little bit? At the moment, it's just a black bit of text that says label. What can we do with that without having to do any code? Well, we bring back in the right-hand pane here, and then we click on our label. And once the label is selected, as I mentioned, we can now see a lot of attributes which are very specific to this particular label. So we don't need to worry too much about that text option at the top, but the main thing we might want to change is the text of the label. So the classic thing to change it to would be Hello World. So you can see that's updated here, but it's not going to extend the label beyond the bounds of the label. So as I'm sure you can guess yourself, we can extend that so that we can see the whole text of our label. Hello World, fabulous. And here, spend a bit of time just playing around with this. It's all fairly straightforward. We can just change the colors. There, we can change the font. If you want to use some of the default styles there, then you can. If you want to use any custom font, then you can just click custom, and then you've got all the usual options. I quite like Papyrus. and then it changes that. So have a play around, create some labels of your own, change the colors, change the fonts. All of this again is fairly self-explanatory. So you can center, right align. You can choose the number of lines for your text. If you know that you're going to have 2, 3, or 4 lines, then you can change that there, and then it will add that for you. If you want to have a potentially unlimited number of lines, you can set that to 0. But if you want to limit it to a certain number of lines, you can. We won't worry about the behavior, and all of this stuff we'll look at in a lot more detail later on in the course. But you can play around with it and see what you can make your labels do. And of course, we don't really need to run the app because we've got our preview here, but if we wanted to just see how that looked on the iPhone itself, we can do that just by clicking the play button. You can also use the Command R shortcut to run your app, and we should see our nice Hello World in pink on the right there. Fantastic. So now we're creating something that actually looks a little bit like an app with a bit of content. We've seen the interface builder and the preview option in Xcode 6. We've dragged in a label from the libraries pane, and we've run our app on the simulator again whilst editing various bits about this label, so changing the color, the font, the size, etc.